Welcome back to the studio for part 2 of Autumn Inspiration. Let's recap where we were up to, and I'll give you and we'll look again at what we're aiming for in this activity. In the last video I stained and decorated 2 pieces of paper, and you can see I've done a little bit more to those since you last saw them in the previous video. Talk about that in a minute. And what we're aiming for is to make some little zigzag artworks, little book or a card, just a little cute thing to display, maybe to give to somebody as a little thank you card or something like that. And the main piece of paper, this one, is to make the body of the zigzag. And the contrasting piece of paper, this one, is to cut shapes out of to add, like I've done with this finished one. Okay, so I will take you to the drawing desk. We'll carry on with just finishing off the decoration on this piece of paper, which I've added more masking fluid to when it was dry. After last time you saw it and it was completely dry, I decided I really wanted more of that red colour to show more strongly, because it dried out a bit too pale for my liking. So I added more masking fluid, more red paint, and I've started using my ink pen to draw some lines. And I also went into the contrasting sheet with more zigzags using the pen. That's the one that's going to be cut up into little shapes to add to the card. These are the things I'm going to use today. I've got the Mod Podge glue and a spreader, sticking the small pieces on, some small scissors for cutting the shapes out, a pencil for drawing the shapes on the back of the paper, my pen for embellishing this decorative sheet, and some rulers. I've got a plastic one, a metal one and a wooden one, just to show you that you can use any of those, but to be honest the metal one's probably the easiest to use, but it doesn't matter if you've only got a plastic one. Is possible to work with that. This is to enable you to tear the paper so that you get a soft edge. As you can see, the hard cut edge there contrasting with the soft edge along the top, which gives them a rustic look. I should also mention that at the end of the previous painting session, the paper that I'd used, especially the thin paper, was extremely cockled. So I decided to, once the paint had completely dried, I sprayed the paper down with plain water and let it soak in, and of course it curled right up, and I wet it on both sides and waited till it had relaxed quite well. And then I put it between some sheets of absorbent paper and put a weight on top. And that's quite a good way of ensuring that your paper dries reasonably flat. It's not perfect, but it's much better than it was. Now I will take off the remainder of this masking fluid that I added. So the first time you saw me put masking fluid on, it was on top of white paper, and then I painted over some of the white lines that I had left when I took the masking fluid off, which sort of softened them a little bit. You could still see them as paler lines. And what you can see here is that you can also add masking fluid on top of dry paint. The important thing when you're using masking fluid is to ensure that at every stage things are dry. So first of all, the masking fluid has to be completely dry before you paint over it, and then the paper has to be completely dry before you try and take the masking fluid off. And then if you want to put more masking fluid on, again, you have to make sure that everything is really bone dry. And sometimes watercolour can look dry, but when you feel the paper, you can feel the dampness in it. So it really is a medium that develops patience. You really have to be prepared to wait. And this is true pretty much whenever you're using watercolours. Now, if you're going to do something similar to this with a pen and draw your leaves, which I think just brings the whole thing together quite well, it might be worth just beforehand taking your pen and trying it out, doing a bit of mark making, just to develop some confidence with it. Seeing how, maybe if your hand is resting on the paper, you can make part of a curve, and then it starts getting quite difficult when you come round here, so you might have to stop and start again. Or you might want to stand up to it. I'm standing at the moment, and it means that I can use my arm from the shoulder, and I can bring my body back as well. You can't see what I'm doing, but I'm actually swaying backwards. And I'm not worrying that it's not very tidy, because I think that looks okay. So maybe have a little practice. And let me see, what I'm going to do is just outline some of the leaves. This one's half done, and I quite like that. So I decided to do some more that are just half outlined. It's not too bad to do standing up, but if you're sitting down, you might find you need to turn your work round. So to do these lines, it's actually easier. Turn everything round, come in this way. As I'm right-handed, I make curves more fluently with this sort of movement of my hand. If I was left-handed, the curves would come more easily this way. A straight line. Actually, very interesting to watch yourself work, in effect, is just pay attention to the way your body moves. And something I've said before is that drawn and painted marks are a record of how our bodies move, which is one of the reasons why everybody's work is different. I would be very surprised if your decorated sheets looked much like mine, because you will be making them in your way, with your body. It really is quite an advantage to be prepared to stand to work. It's up to you, of course. It might not be physically possible for you, or comfortable, but if you try it, let me know how you feel about standing to draw. And standing, maybe using different heights of table or work surface to work at. I'm actually bending over a little bit, which would be quite tiring for my back if I carried on like this. But it's perfectly doable for a short time. Doing all the easy sides first. And then I'll turn the work round, do some of the other sides. And you see, which one shall I do? That's half done. That's going to be half done. I'll leave that half done, I think. So you see what I've made is a decorative design based on leaf shapes and colours. It isn't a picture of leaves, but it would be lovely to see yours if you want to do it more realistically and do studies of the leaves. That would be good too. Shall I finish that one? Yes, I think it needs that outline putting in. It's all going to be torn up into pieces, but there is pleasure in doing it. There's a pleasure in the whole, which I'm enjoying, and it's of course recorded now for posterity. But I really want to carry on now and divide it up into sections. Remember the little template I made that I showed you just out of thin paper? That's probably going to be about the size of the zigzags I will make, and I'll be able to get 1, 2, 3, 4 out of this sheet. The reason why I'm not going to make these any bigger is because I want to have the torn edges all the way around. So I mean, I could just divide the sheet into 4 pieces like that, and then I would have these edges the way they were cut by you know, in the factory where the paper was made, and I would rather have soft edges all the way around on these little books. So I will working from the other side. I'll first of all divide it into halves. Let's use the plastic ruler to measure that. Now I'm just going to score, to use the scissors, just to score along there, which makes it easier to tear. There. So I can bend it, and then I like to use the metal ruler for this. Scary moment. Okay, there we are. It's a nice soft edge. Got this little bit torn away there, but that will be quite nice on this side of the book. I wonder which way up I'll do them. This way or this way. I spoke a little bit in the last video about how colour can create a mood, and so can shapes. I rather feel that the leaves going that way, like they do on these books I made, look as though they're going up. So it's uplifting, it's quite a happy shape going upwards. When I turn it round, they're hanging down. It looks a lot more, maybe a more sombre sort of mood. Not sure which way to put them. Let's see what it looks like when they're all divided up. Okay, so I shall measure this one. It's easy to see with a plastic ruler, isn't it? There we are. Not my strong suit, numbers. Okay. And score it. Ta-da! That's very rustic, isn't it, that side? Oh, it's quite nice. I might just tidy that up a little bit. Just take a little bit more of that paper off there. Okay, that'll do. That's a nice little scrap. That might get added to something. Right. Now I'll put the template on. This saves me doing any more. Measuring. Just put a little mark there and there where the folds are. There and there. I want to score those as well. Okay, and then let's pop the template back. A metal rule there. I'll give it a score as well. Oh, oops, a bit firmer with the scoring. So that the tear. Oh, that's better. That's tearing better now. Ah, yes. Another nice little bit. Never throw these bits away. It'd be good for something. I need to put the metal ruler there as well. Taking a little bit at a time, just kind of nibbling away at this edge. Paper always tears more easily in one direction than another because of the direction the fibres run in. Okay, now then, it's always a surprise which bit is randomly selected. It needs to go that way, doesn't it? Seem to be wanting to go that way, the leaves. If it's going to go that way, I'd have to do it, I'll fold the opposite way around. What do you think? Upwards or downwards? Or maybe upwards. I'll keep it this way. Right, okay. So there we are. Just needs some nice little hearts cutting out of the other piece of paper and then gluing on. So to ensure random selection of hearts, I will mark them out on the back and I won't know what area the hearts are coming from. So I have measured out a grid which is approximately 3.5 centimetres this way. That's 4, that one, that's 4, so between 3.5 and 4 centimetres, between what's that, just over 1 centimetre and 1.5 centimetres, so randomly marked out so all the hearts end up slightly different shapes. And then to make maximum use of the paper, if I draw this deep sort of backwards S shape and its mirror image, forward S shape, all the way along and underneath as well. These are going to be much bigger ones. going to be very little paper wasted. See how they all snuggle up together? Okay. So I could fill the whole sheet with, sit and draw them all out first, and then just get as many out as I need to, as and when. Let's get a few out, ready for the demonstration book. So it's easier to handle when you've only got a small piece of paper to deal with. There's two. That one didn't get any paint on it. It's either a reject or I'll add paint to it. Oh, no, not good ones. Let me find some better ones. Yeah, that's going to be better, isn't it? Of course, those ones near the edge of the paper, they're not going to have as much paint on them. Yeah, that's better. That'll do. Just get 3 done and then stick them on, and there's one completed. Because you can get into a sort of production line when you're making yours if you want to. Do all your scoring and tearing and folding of the body of the book, or a number of books, cards, whatever we're calling them, and then sit by the fire, put the radio on, and cut out loads of hearts. Or another shape. You could, if you don't want to do hearts, you could do simple little leaf shapes or something else. Surprise me. It's got nothing on the edge either. So I've got 3. There we are. They've randomly picked some nice bits of colour and some interesting doodly bits of zigzag. So, nearly there. Get the Mod Podge. Get the glue spreader. Oops. Stick one over that glue that got spilt there. I can't resist. You know what I'm going to do, don't you? Can't resist. Can't stop myself. Oh, that looks gorgeous. Trying to get more to land on that heart, but didn't want to. Hey, never mind. Well, that exercise has incorporated a lot of different techniques. Colour evaluation and mixing, paint application, waiting for paint to dry, use of masking fluid, drawing and measuring skills, and developing some cutting and tearing techniques. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do in response to the autumn colours you see.